Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I am your host, Alan Moore, and I am so excited that you have chosen to join us today. I am really pumped to bring you today's episode because it is an interview with Brittney Castro, the founder of Financially Wise Women based in Los Angeles. So I've actually been following Brittney ever since I started my firm back in 2012. But it really only had social media interactions with her. And I finally caught up with her at FinCon down in Charlotte back in September because she was speaking on how to build courses to leverage your brand and increase the number of clients that you can help. And you'll actually hear in our interview that Brittney kind of avoids industry conferences, and you'll hear a little bit about why that is. And it's really sad that it's the case, but it's actually a really true and really interesting point. So you'll also hear in this episode that Michael Kitsis and I actually interviewed Brittney at FinCon from the podcast stage live with an audience, but the recording equipment actually failed. But she was kind enough to give us a second shot at the interview, and this time the recording actually worked. Now, Brittney climbed the corporate ladder rather quickly before branching off to start her own firm back in January of 2013, and she is set to make over $250,000 this year, and she's taking the entire month of December off. Now, this is only her third year in business. Plus, she doesn't even manage investments. So if you want to learn how she built her firm, how you can use a course to grow your brand, and how having a niche has helped her build a powerhouse marketing strategy, then you're going to want to listen to every bit of this episode. Now, remember, you can check out the show notes at xyplanningnetwork.com/18. This month's shows are brought to you by BettermentInstitutional.com, the advisor-branded digital platform that automates the operational side of your business and lets you do what you do best, advise clients. Schedule a demo at www.bettermentinstitutional.com, and you can also listen to our interview with Steve Lokshin, the co-founder of Betterment Institutional and the platform's first advisor client at www.xyplanningnetwork.com/16. All right, without further ado, here's my interview with Brittney Castro. Hello, Brittney, and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. Thanks so much for being on with us today.
Hi, Alan. Happy to be here.
For the second time, actually, for our listeners, we actually did a live recording with Michael Kitsis, myself, and Brittney at FinCon there in Charlotte. And whenever we got done, we looked at the recording equipment and nothing had been recorded. So we had a great hour-long episode, a great hour-long conversation that was not recorded. So thank you for being willing to do this again with us.
You're welcome. And then this time, the adventure I had to go on just to get my equipment right for the podcast. So, we're off to a great start with these podcast interviews.
Yeah, and this time we get to ditch Michael, so it can just be a one-on-one and not have his obnoxious, smart questions that he likes to bring up.
I love Michael, though.
I do too. Sorry, Michael.
It's fun both ways. Sorry, Michael. I would have loved having you here again and told you my adventure of just getting the podcast stuff, but hey, next time.
Yeah, so for our listeners, I was getting very frantic text messages this morning on my headset's not working. I have to go to Best Buy, which was apparently closed, and you had to go to Radio Shack, so...
Oh, it was longer than that. But yes, let's just say I made it on time to our 10 o'clock interview session. And my life has yet to fail me with the adventures that I go on.
So to kick off the episode, let's take a step back. How did you discover financial planning? Like, how did you get into this career of personal finance?
So I was in college. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and I was studying business economics, but at the time, I really wanted to have my own wedding planning company. Like, I'd always thought of this idea of having my own business. Even when I was younger, I just wanted to have my own business, and I thought, okay. At first, I wanted to open up a restaurant, and then I realized that is way too much work, and you have to work weekends, and I just worked at restaurants, like, during high school and college, and I just was like, I don't think I want to own one. So in college, I thought it was going to be the next best thing, which was a wedding planner. And then I worked with a wedding planner in college, and I was like, yeah, I actually really love going to parties, but I don't want to have to plan them if they're not my own.
And work with brides who are delightful.
So that was a very helpful learning experience. And I had just always equated the financial industry to being very methodical and boring and analytical. And as much as think that way, very logical and analytical at times, I'm also very creative, and I love to do lots of different things. So I literally just talked to my career counselor, and she's like, oh, well, you should try financial planning. You might like it. And I said, I don't even know what that is, but I did get a job offer from Ameriprise Financial, so maybe I should do that. And she said, yeah, do it and see if you like it. So that's basically what I did. After college, I moved back down to LA area and started at Ameriprise Financial, and I, started to realize, hey, I really understand money. I like teaching people, and it was flexible. So it started to fit for me. So I it was just trial and error basically. I didn't know I was going to set off to be a financial planner, but that's just what happened.
Isn't it interesting when you look back at your life, those pivotal moments, the single conversation that literally changed your entire career path was this one conversation with one counselor who said, you should check this out. And you went this direction instead of whatever other thousands of directions you could have chosen. It's always an interesting look back at our past.
Oh, I know. It's always so fascinating to me to see all the dots connecting when I look back, but at the time you just have to be brave and take the leaps and go for it and try it and see where it takes you.
And it's something we'll talk more with your story in particular through this, but I think it's easy to look back and see the connected dots, and I think some folks look at each of our stories and we connect the dots really well. But we didn't know how the dots were going to connect whenever we made some of these decisions. So when you were deciding to become a financial planner, you had no idea the path that you would take to get from, that first job with Ameriprise to where you are today, even though looking back, it looks like this really clean process that it was well thought out. If you're in the same boat I was, it was all very, looking back, now it feels very haphazard, but it worked out.
It totally is that way. I mean, that's life in general. It's not linear. It's so much more enjoyable now for me because I'm finally starting to understand that more and more, especially over the past 3 years. Oh, this is what everybody talks about. Life is really a journey, and you just keep going, and you are taken to places that fit with you, and if they don't, then you make transitions to get to another place that is a better fit, and it's really just all about moving forward constantly.
Yeah, not being afraid to pivot. So you started out with Ameriprise, and then how long were you there?
Okay, so I was at Ameriprise Financial for almost 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I know. It was, looking back, it was the perfect fit for me at that time. I learned a lot. They had a really good marketing training platform when I started, and poured tons of resources and money into helping financial advisors understand marketing and financial planning and how to run a practice. I was super serious at that time. I would wear all black suits. I would put my hair in a bun. It would be so tight that I would get a headache. And I didn't think, maybe I shouldn't put my hair back so tight,
I can't even imagine that from out of you.
It's crazy, right? It's so crazy because I was trying to play this part. I was 22 years old, and I'm petite and small, and so I was trying to act older to get these clients and be serious because I was doing financial planning. And literally after 4 years of that, I just realized, man, I'm really stressed out a lot. I'm sick a lot. All my friends are still kind of enjoying their 20s and post-college years, and I'm this person who's a workaholic, and I'm successful, quote-unquote successful, with making revenue here, making money, but I just felt, I don't think this was what I envisioned for my life. And around that same time was when, the stock market started to go crazy, and it was just working with a lot of pre-retirees, having to just calm them down with the stock market fluctuations was also just weighing on me so much. And I was again, I'm 26 years old. I just don't think this is what I set out to create for myself. So I basically started to explore options and, as you know, like a lot of the things always change and like broker, dealers. And so a lot of the paths of having your own practice and going to a platform called P2 weren't as possible for me as they were when I first started. So I was like, okay, I really starting to enjoy financial planning, but I just don't want to do it in this way and be stressed out and working like a dog and helping people that are great clients, but I just really don't relate to on a regular basis. So I just started to explore different options, and that's when I discovered LPL Financial and started to like plan my exit strategy.
So what attracted you to LPL in particular?
Honestly, the independence. Like Ameriprise had this platform called P2 where if you worked at the P1 platform and built your business, you can eventually transition to the P2, which was like running your own practice, being way more independent, being able to brand yourself a little bit more. There was like a different payout structure. You would have to pay for your like overhead and office space and everything, but you would have way more flexibility. So that was always like my route that I wanted to pursue. I didn't want to go into management like a lot of, my early managers were trying to promote. I was like, no, I want my own business. I want to have more freedom and flexibility. So when that, like I said, no longer became like a viable option for me, I just said, okay, what other platforms are out there that have something like this? And LPL was one of the biggest ones for independent financial advisors, and I just saw a few people from Ameriprise make the leap to LPL, so I thought, okay, I've seen them do it. I think I could do it too.
So were you able to bring any clients with you, or did you start fresh with LPL?
No. I mean, honestly, I was able to bring a handful, but really a lot of the stuff at Ameriprise was proprietary. So I had to leave a lot of, like I had built a book, and at the last year I was actually working with a senior planner, and we were like partners, and he had the older, look, the experience, CFP, and I learned a lot in that partnership. Mainly I learned that I like to do things on my own, and and I was like, man, I'm doing all the work, so I might as well just try to do it on my own and go for it. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of the clients were proprietary, so I really had to start over. And I also moved cities, which it's not that far in terms of like distance, but in LA it's a big deal. Like I was in Long Beach, and then I moved to West LA. So just trying to like retain clients in the Long Beach area now that I was in West LA was kind of not feasible given the distance and drive time, because at that time we still met in person and did everything in person.
Yeah, I was in New York earlier this year, and I remember somebody had mentioned to me that, if you basically move like 10 blocks, then you're basically in a new city, and you have to learn all the restaurants and everything there because it's so compact. So what looks like only a few miles in LA is actually basically like moving to an entirely new city.
Oh my God, it's so true. And so when you come visit, we'll like go around and I'll show you all the little cities of LA because, it's super fun, but it's just, at that time, virtual, financial planning wasn't really around.
Wasn't a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing. So clients were like, I really want to go with you, but it's not possible, given my accounts are going to stay at Ameriprise and, you're going to be there. And it was like really mutual for most of my clients. It's like, I totally understand. I actually think it'd be better for you to work with somebody who's local. And, I helped, clients find another advisor, basically.
So you went with LPL, and did they let you establish your own brand, or did you fall under somebody else's kind of established practice? What does that look like when you moved to LPL?
So I wasn't ready to fully just go launch mode with LPL because I had never really paid for my own office expenses and everything. So I found this branch in West LA called Perennial Financial, and they had John and Chris, they're two young advisors, and they kind of created, I don't know if you remember this word OSJ.
I don't.
You know that? It's like some compliance word, like Office of Supervisor Jurisdiction. I don't remember. Okay, don't quote me on that. Anyway, they had set up their practice with LPL in a way that they could bring on other advisors under them and, just help them with the overhead by charging a percentage of, revenue. So that was the best stepping stone for me because honestly it gave me enough flexibility to kind of start to create my own brand, which was separate than their brand, but at the same time be more financially wise and realize, oh my God, there's so much I have to do. Like, I have to rebuild my business. I want to start branding myself for women and pay for all these things. Like, let me just get their help with compliance and overhead as I build my practice up again. And then eventually, I always had the goal to then break away and start my own, whether it was continuing with LPL or going into the RIA.
So were you able to establish the Financially Wise Women brand while you were there? Is that kind of where that started and the blog started, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it was really cool. I talked with John and Chris, and I was like, look, I understand you have this perennial brand, and I'm kind of part of it. I'm on the website and everything, but I also am creating my own brand, and LPL was, okay with that, because that's when, it was 2010, so social media started to get, more popular with the independent channels, at least for compliance. So I started Financially Wise Women at the end of, I think basically at the end of 2010 or 11. I have to remember exactly. I want to say 2011. And it was a blog. So it started as a blog, and actually Stephanie Sammons helped me with it. And it was great because I was finally able to start putting out content and building this brand that had been brewing in me for, full year before. And so that was fun.
That's awesome. And for anybody that doesn't know, Stephanie Sammons is kind of a marketing guru in our space. So she used to be, the brand was Wired Advisors. She has since kind of rebranded to Stephanie Sammons, but she does help advisors with marketing, branding, social media strategy, that sort of thing. She's really fantastic.
Yeah, and she just wrote a book all about LinkedIn. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Oh, nice. I have not read that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, do you have your CFP at this point in your career?
Oh, okay. So let's talk about CFP. So in 2010, I was like, I'm leaving Ameriprise. I'm moving in with my boyfriend who lived in LA at that time, and I'm going to sit for my CFP exam all in one.
Makes perfect sense. Why do one thing at a time?
Why, story of my life. Why just focus on one thing? So those 6 months, I remember, June to December of 2010, were very intense. I was living in a studio, trying to re-establish my practice and sit for the CFP exam. So let's just say I didn't really have that much of a life at that time, and I was probably even more serious than I was at Ameriprise, although I was trying to wear more colors and not only black at this time.
That's a real big leap there. That you should be very proud of yourself.
I was very proud of myself. So yeah, I sat for my CFP exam in 2010 of November.
Okay, so you had 5-6 years of experience. You're working, kind of building the book of business. And so what made you decide to get the CFP? Because I'm sure we have listeners that are torn around, does a CFP make sense for them?
Yeah, so at Ameriprise, when I was at Ameriprise, it was a big popular thing to go get credentials. So I got my CRPC, AAMS. These were just College of Financial Planning credentials in retirement or asset management. And, then the next thing was CFP. So Ameriprise actually did talk a lot about getting your CFP designation and becoming known as a financial planner to set yourself out from the rest of the financial advisors out there. So that seed was always planted in me. And also at that time, because I was doing the courses for the CFP while I was still at Ameriprise. So it was year or something, 2 of courses before I even sat for the exam. So at that time, I just wanted to build more credibility. I was still so young. I was 26. I was I want people to know I'm serious, that I know what I'm talking about, that I'm not just a financial advisor trying to sell them something, but I actually do financial planning. And so that just made sense.
Very cool. So you get started at LPL, you're kind of establishing your own brand. And if that was 2010, 2011, so you're there for a couple of years then before?
Yeah.
What did it look like to work at LPL?
It was great. It was 2.5 years there. I really have nothing bad to say about LPL. I think they supported me in a lot of my social media and marketing endeavors that I was creating at that time. Because when I started with LPL, I launched my blog and I started to study online marketing, and I just saw a lot of young women having fashion and beauty blogs and then videos on YouTube. That's kind of when it started to become popular. And so I said, look, I really want to focus on young entrepreneurial professional women in their 30s and to help them with money and think about money just as fun and sexy as like fashion or beauty, these sites that they're always going to. So I would work with the LPL compliance team and really just like help them understand what I was trying to do. And once we like built a rapport and a relationship, they really looked at me as like a leading financial advisor in the social media space, because I was the one kind of like pioneering a lot of these ideas that were being done. It wasn't like I was making them up, but they weren't being done in the financial industry yet just because of all the rules. So it was really, I think LPL was really flexible with me, and I always tell advisors, like, look, you just communicate exactly what you want to do with them, because most of the times compliance people just don't understand that what you're putting out on Facebook is like the same thing as if you put it on a flyer and brought it to somebody. But the fact is, it's just virtual now, so it's like helping them understand it, because I literally would have conversations with my compliance team like, look, you approved my blog written content, so now all I'm doing is turning that written content into a video. Now the video is just going to go on my website, and it's going to be the same thing that people would digest. It's just in a visual way, right? So I would just explain it to them, like, oh, perfect, just send us a video script then and we're good. And, so then they would approve that, and then I would start doing all my social media from there.
So if things were going well there, ultimately, what made you decide to branch off and start your own RIA and kind of break away from LPL?
Well, let's see. Mostly, how do we decide anything major in life? It's usually like personal things that happen. So like I said, I always had this idea to have my own brand, my own company. So I just started to feel like restricted. And I always knew, being under like another person's brand umbrella wasn't going to be my long-term thing. So I started to get that itch, like to go and leave, and so it's like starting to explore, do I do this on my own, or do I like look at RIA? And at the time, Jeff Rose was like also with LPL. I think he might still be. And him and Kathy Curtis and Michael Kitsos, honestly, those were like the few people I knew who were like doing things differently, and I was like starting to explore, what's an RIA? What does that even mean? Whoa, there's other ways you can work in this business? That's weird. Like, I was just like trained a certain way. So I started to get that itch and like explore routes to have even more freedom, because I wanted just to be able to do my social media, my marketing, my webinars with not all this compliance oversight. And then I saw other like coaches creating products and doing speaking, and I was like, oh man, I really want to do those types of things. But honestly, the ultimate push was I ended a relationship, and then I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and I was like, man, financially, I can't afford all this. Like, I can't afford to pay for this apartment I want to stay in and like run my business that's producing revenue, but now I'm giving them, a good chunk of money every year, and I'm not leveraging like the resources because I'm spending all this other money creating my own brand and business model. So I was just like looking at all the numbers. I'm like, okay, this is like a clear sign. I have to make this leap. And I was like so scared. I mean, it was like a challenging time in my life for sure. And I just remember like, okay, well, on to the next thing. I guess this is just like rip off the Band-Aid and go now.
I love it. We did have Jeff Rose on episode 4. So if anybody wants to go back, it's XYPlanningnetwork.com/4. And he's actually no longer with LPL. And he kind of said the same thing, which was he broke away. And his final straw, which he mentions in the episode, is that he wrote, I love Roth IRAs. And the LPL compliance folks wouldn't let him publish that. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, that he finally left, because he was just like, what do you mean I can't say I love Roth IRAs? But I do love Roth IRAs. So it's just so funny, like what kind of drives you. And I'm surprised that the broker dealers haven't caught on to the fact that they're losing great talent that would have stayed with them if the compliance wasn't so arduous. And like, I feel like by the time they figure out social media and videos and, with YouTube and whatever, we're going to be on doing something else, because that's going to be the old school marketing mechanism.
Exactly.
But to each their own. So, RIA world is much more nimble. So when was this? Was this early 2013, late 2012?
This was 2012, late 2012. So like I left LPL basically I was like looking at my numbers actually because I was like thinking, oh, let me just like review some things. I left LPL and like started the RIA, went live on I think December 1st, 2012, but I didn't really officially like announce it until January. So like it was basically like around this time 3 years ago, I was taking like October, November just to like prepare, like get the RIA documents in place and like figure out what the heck I need to do to start an RIA because unfortunately, like I've already expressed to you and Michael, XY Planning Network wasn't really around yet.
We are sorry. I had just started my firm in August of 2012, so I didn't know what I was doing.
You were not thinking about me at that time, clearly. So now I'm super stoked to be on your network because I'm telling you, it's made my life so much easier in like, I think the 1 week I've officially been on it. I don't know. It's just amazing. So,
yeah, I will say we had Brittney on for the first recording that didn't record before she was an XYPN member, and now she's one of our newest members after hanging out at FinCon, where we talked through a little bit about the services and things like that. So, but no, so you figured this thing out on your own, and just like many of us did in that kind of 2012, 2013 timeframe, where we were all kind of sitting out there on islands by ourselves, trying to figure out how do you do this RIA thing? You know, how do you select technology? Where am I going to get clients? It was a really interesting time, I think, that looking back, now it sounds fun, but at the time was pretty stressful.
Isn't it great to finally look back and be like, oh man, that was hard. What was I thinking?
So glad to be past that time period.
See, it would have been really helpful to know you at that time because I'm like, I have an amazing group of friends and family, but I would cry on the bathroom floor, like literally. I'm like, why is this so hard? I don't understand, and then as you know, I started to not talk to a lot of people in the financial industry anymore. Like I really put my head down and like plugged away and filtered myself from the industry because what I found was I was making these major changes to my business model and my life, and it was draining to try to explain it to people all the time who were like, but what if you don't manage money? How are you going to make money? What are you going to do? Are you going to work from your home office? How's that going to work? Are you going to call clients on Skype? Whoa, weird. It was just like trying to explain my vision to me became like more draining than actually just like doing the work. So I said like, you know what? For me, I just need to not go to conferences, not really associate with people other than the few that I knew, like, my little LPL guys who, like, believed in me, were like, oh, yeah, you're meant to go have your own firm. Like, they're so supportive. And they're actually the guys who bought my asset management practice. So when I left LPL, I actually sold that part of my business because I didn't want to manage money anymore. But now I'm going to look into that again. So, yeah, it was just like a really interesting time for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, it's one of the reasons, I guess, one of my passions behind XY Planning Network was that I was sitting on an island, what I felt like was an island by myself. You were apparently out there. I think I knew of you via Twitter, but didn't really know what you were doing. And we are all kind of doing this thing at the same time. And so we've had a couple of, actually all the members of my study group. So Sophia Berra back in episode 3, Eric Robert's back in episode 6, and then Mary Beth Storjahan in episode 10. Fortunately, Sophia actually pulled together a study group of 4 of us that were all launching, because they launched like mid to end 2013. So they had kind of pulled together a few people just so we could cry to each other. And honestly, and to celebrate the wins, whenever you get like a quote in the, or in the Wall Street Journal, or you get a new client, but also the losses, to be like, hey, like didn't land this client, or I'm out of money, that I think we all run into that. So,
oh my God, I was broke. Oh my God. Oh, I know. And it's so weird, Alan, that time, I don't know if you knew this, but Sophia reached out to me, Mary Beth reached out to me, and they're like, hey, we want to do something similar. And I was just like a few months ahead of them. And then I remember Sophia saying like, hey, I have this study group. I think I even was like on one of them. And I was like, no, I can't do it. It's not for me. Like, I just can't.
Too funny.
I can't. Yeah, because I had this thing that I was doing, like, I can't be around the financial industry right now. I just need to, like, do my own thing. And I remember her asking me, and she's like, it's really great. And I was like, yeah, no thanks. So I told her at FinCon, I was like, oh, man, I'm, like, really sad.
You
guys
could
are all
have
really
been one of the cool kids. Oh, too funny.
I hope I can be in the cool kid crowd now. You guys don't hate me.
Well, and for the, I guess the point here is for young planners that are out there, if you feel like you're on an island, try to find a few other people that are also on an island and form a mastermind group or a study group. And one of these episodes will do kind of a feature specifically on how to run one and how, like, my group, FP Hackers, like how we run it and that sort of thing. But also for the older advisors, understand that we are doing things a little bit differently, and showing up to conferences and constantly being treated like we have three eyes and like you can't figure out what we're doing is really draining. And what it does is it drives young talent like Brittney away from coming to conferences, and that's why we don't have young people there. Because they are trying to do things differently, and we keep being told, no, it won't work. No, no, you can't meet virtually. No, you can't work with younger clients. No, you can't run a business without managing money. All things that we've proven we can do, just not, honestly, we did it without the help of a lot of the established industry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you and Michael started your company, honestly. I'm so excited. It's like a very exciting time now, I feel.
I love it. I love to hear that.
Yeah, I'm like happy about it again. Thanks, Alan. You've changed
well, thank you. Hey, I'm going to have to put that quote somewhere.
Yeah. Honestly, no. I mean, I could go on and on about XY Planning Network, but it feels so nice to be in a group, even though it's still small, like a group of leading pioneers in the financial planning space that you guys set out to create this platform to help people like us and help us not feel alone and loners anymore. I mean, it's great. Really, you've changed my life. This is a pivotal time in my life story, Alan.
I love it. Well, I hope one day we can look back and reminisce on it. The day, but now we're going to get into it a little bit. Obviously, you don't need our help to get the business going because you have been absolutely crushing it. So let's talk a little bit about your business. You said you don't manage money. So whenever you launched, what was your business model, kind of your fee structure, and how you were going to work with clients on the planning side?
Yeah, so basically in 2013 was like my first official year. I sold my book of business, so that helped with, just like revenue. I got like a lump sum and then a 2-year note on it. And then I've been doing financial planning for flat fees. So I basically created this 6-month program to work with clients, charge them a flat fee based on the complexity, and I was also doing some disability and life insurance. So those were like, in 2013, my main 3 revenue sources. And then in 2014 is when I started to really see just even more because, I had this goal to create online products and speaking. So in 2014, I launched a money class, which is an online course to teach women personal finance. And it was really meant to be like a place to help clients who couldn't afford my one-on-one fees yet, but I just they would come to me and I felt like, man, I don't know where to send these people to. I mean, you can definitely tell them to read a book, but they need more than just a book.
Mm-hmm.
They need a little bit more hand-holding, but there's nothing out there doing this. So I started studying all the online product space, and then I launched that course to help also create some passive income and revenue for me because I knew, hey, if I leave asset management, which is a recurring fee, I got to figure out some other sort of recurring fee outside of planning because planning is kind of like hit or miss. Like sometimes I got like 5 clients in 1 month, and sometimes it was only 1, and it was like hard to plan.
It's really variable.
Yeah, it was like so variable. So, and then I started, I shouldn't say started. I continued to do workshops because like workshops I always did, even at Ameriprise. It was like my main way to get clients. And then so I just started to turn those workshops into webinars and leverage more social media. And then eventually that now has turned into like paid speaking opportunities, which is great. So in 2013, it was kind of financial planning, some asset management and insurance. 2014, it was a lot more financial planning, some online products. And then also in 2014, I got this opportunity to work with a startup here in LA. So they brought me on as a marketing consultant just to help them create content for millennial entrepreneurs. And that, I still have that client and relationship, and it's amazing because for me, I do love marketing. I do love business development, and I love like talking about entrepreneurship and just being one. You kind of like naturally want to vibe to other people who know what you're doing on a daily basis. So that has been such an opportunity and thing I never even imagined, like marketing consulting could be a revenue source for me. But that, came in 2014, and that's still sustained for 2015 as well.
You just said so many things that I want to dig in on. We could talk for hours about this stuff. So a couple of highlights. One is you said you do a 6-month engagement for financial planning. How do you charge for that? And how many meetings are people getting over those 6 months? Like what's your kind of financial planning process there, just as kind of at a high level?
Yeah, so I'll say it as it is now, but I'm actually, after talking with you and a few other planners, going to change that. So at a high level now, it's like basically the first month we do the normal data, strategy, implementation meeting just to develop the plan and put it into action. And then from there, I have a 3-month and a 6-month review call. So basically within 6 months, there's 5 formal meetings, and then they get the written plan, of course, the budget, and then mainly like ongoing access to me for that entire 6 months. So before I met you and got exposed to this whole network of amazing planners, I was like having one of my biggest challenges this year was converting clients because I had done pretty well. Like I think in 2013 I brought in like 25 new clients, and then 2014 same, 7 or something, and then this year I've already done 29 or something, but I was having trouble converting all of those to an ongoing. So I had the 6-month, and then I had this 12-month ongoing financial planning, which right now in my ongoing, maybe there's like 12. So I was
12 clients that have opted into the ongoing?
Exactly. So
okay.
I was doing a really good job of bringing in new clients regularly, but having a hard time keeping them in financial planning, converting them into the ongoing 12-month relationship.
But you were making pretty good money on those upfront plans, right? I mean, how are you currently charging for those plans?
Yeah. So I don't remember what I started out in 2013 as, but right now my individuals $2,500, couples $3,500, and business owners $5,000 and up. So
I'm going to ask the question that everyone's going to ask. People will pay you $3,000 for a financial plan? Yes, they will. You've worked with 70 clients in the last, almost 3 years now that were more than willing to pay that fee. And have you had to ever refund anybody fees?
I had to refund one person, and it was because she had it was more like personal reasons. Her husband, it was like interesting. But
so 1 out of 75, not too bad.
Yeah, and actually more. I think now I'm close to, that's about right, like 75 total over the 3 years.
That's awesome. So
is that, before I met you, I didn't know any of this was awesome. I was like,
yeah, so I'm a little bummed. This was the part of the conversation that I'm really sad that we missed because, and we'll dig into revenue numbers here in a second, but when we asked you this question, you just flippantly said, 25 clients a year for 3 years and the revenue bomb, which we'll get into. And Michael and I literally our jaw just dropped. We're like, that's awesome. And you were like, is it? I don't even know. Because you haven't been hanging out with financial planners to know. And it's hard to benchmark this stuff, right? We don't know what other planners are earning, which again is one of the big advantages of having the community. But so, we can do some back of napkin math, but you had some side hustles. So do you mind sharing kind of what was your revenue kind of going that first year and then, kind of through your 3 years now that you've been in business?
Yeah, so this was a number. So first of all, yes, thank you for letting me know I'm not not just a failure because, I have these goals in my mind. So I am doing exactly what I teach my clients is how much money do you want to make and then work the business backwards to have that goal. So then you can know exactly what your revenue should be for the business to support your life that you want. So I had this number of $250,000. As soon as I get there, I can make the income that I want. So in the first year, I looked at this specifically. I did $135,000, 27 new financial plans, 0 products. I didn't have any products at that time. But I do have to say, around $35,000 of that was just the one-time payment, like a down payment of the practice that I sold.
For selling the asset.
So,
the asset
basically,
business.
if I take that out, I basically had $100,000.
That is awesome. Okay, so this is where you don't know what other planners are making. So I think that's by far the most. I'm not sure if we asked Jeff Rose for his numbers, but definitely the most for the first 12 months of anybody that we've had on the show so far. But like you said, there are other income streams. And that first year it was selling the book of business. And then into year 2 was, the courses, kind of started getting ramped up as well as the marketing. So where did you go from there? So 130 in your first year.
Yeah, basic. And then 2014, I did 122,000. So that was more reflective of like not that practice sale.
Yep.
26 financial plans, and then I sold 32 products. And I also got the marketing consulting client at that time. So that like started toward the end, basically.
Okay, so that was last year. Then how are things going this year so far?
So I've done 149,000 as of September, 26 financial plans, and I've sold 56 products. I had 2 marketing consulting clients this year, and then also paid speaking and writing, which is great. So it's definitely
That's
way more
huge.
diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my goal this year was to do 250,000. So, as you know, I'm taking the month off in December. I think I'll still be able to do it, but I'm for sure going to cross, hopefully, the 200 threshold, which will be very exciting, Alan.
That is exciting. That's fantastic.
Mainly because, now looking back, I'm like, oh, this is pretty good, but I'm just like focused on like a certain thing that I know to get to my income goal.
Yeah, you're in your own head and just kind of focused on your own world, which is awesome. I mean, it's obviously been working great. So let's talk a little bit about the product. So you created this money course. How is that priced? And it sounds like you sold, I think you said 30 last year and 50 this year so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have so basically it's a 6-week online course. It's $297. So it's like, just figuring out the price point that was low enough under my financial planning services, but not too low where it's, people aren't valuing what they're buying, because that's also a big thing. I don't want to just like produce products just to like throw up a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
I really do care about financial planning and helping people, and I want to produce quality value and make sure that if they're going to spend $297, there's like 10 times more value in there. So that's the price point of the product. It is evergreen, meaning people can buy it and start it at any time. I am now trying to test out different marketing strategies behind it where I offer it only for a certain time, like open enrollment, and then get people to engage more that way because now there's a deadline, and then I could offer some additional like live calls or something. But so far, it's been great to see like almost 100 people have bought this class, and that's great,
And at $300 a pop, I mean, there's another $30,000 in revenue.
Yeah, definitely. So it's very exciting, and again, I think it's just like I created it because there was a need. I thought, I don't know where to send these people to, so I need to create a product or something that could help them in the meantime. And I've had that. I've had people start in the money class and then come back to me 6 months later for financial planning because they...
Oh, really?
Yeah, they still realize the importance of custom, personal financial planning. And look, the information's out there. I tell advisors all the time, don't be afraid to put free content galore, because guess what? People can Google anything. So if
so
your
true.
value does not come from the financial knowledge, it's just helping people. Like you have a personal value to help them maneuver and make their lives easier with, streamlining the decisions or bringing strategies and systems to the table to help them, manage their money more efficiently and effectively every month. So that's your value. And if you can focus on that, then I don't think we're ever going to lose to robo-advisors or, whatever these apps are, because people are always going to want a personal connection.
So this course has turned not only into income, but also it's almost like getting paid to showcase your services with an upsell of, full-fledged financial planning.
Yes, definitely.
That is awesome. And it's definitely something that we had Matt Becker on the show back in episode 13, and he runs Mom and Dad Money. And he's kind of looking at this same deal where his niche market isn't always ready, as new parents, to outlay the money for ongoing financial planning. And so he's looking at developing courses, in order to kind of reach his target markets, because again, it's getting paid to market yourself, which is fantastic. So you have done a bunch of plans in the last 3 years. I mean, 75 plus clients, 100 people to buy your course. You obviously have a pretty good marketing strategy. So where are your clients coming from? I mean, where are you seeing these planning clients, and has that evolved over the 3 years that you've been in business?
So a lot of my clients come from my website, so that is definitely different. Like when I first started out, it was like from workshops or, networking that I did or referrals, like typical financial advisors. But then since I would put so much time and energy into building my online presence, creating a website with a funnel, honestly in 2014 and this year, most of our people find us through the website. I still get the referrals, don't get me wrong. I still get, workshop leads, but I didn't look at this number, but I would say like 60% come from the website, like people who saw Facebook posts or looked up, Googled financial planners in LA and saw my website immediately and then sent in the request to meet. So it's been really cool because now I just come and we have leads to call. They schedule on my calendar. My assistant confirms them, and we're good to go. So all that time that I used to put into calling people, going to events, it's all automated. I don't do any of it. It's like the inbound marketing that we all strive for, and it is possible.
Inbound marketing is such a beautiful thing. And for people that have never experienced kind of an inbound marketing success, it's amazing just how relieving it is because many of us are not built, and I'll put myself in this category. I am not comfortable going out and trying to drum up business. It pains me. And so doing everything I can to create an inbound strategy has been huge, both in building my RA as well as with the XY Planning Network. So you have a pretty big social media presence. Which social media platforms are you using most heavily at this point?
Yeah, so right now I use a lot of Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So Facebook and YouTube have kind of been up and running for a few years now. Instagram is the main big thing I've been focusing on. I have a friend who's talking about Instagram all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get my Instagram account better because honestly, Alan, I went to where my people are. So I just found okay, if women in their 30s are creative, entrepreneur-minded, where are they hanging out on a regular basis? Well, most of them now are on Instagram. It's just such a popular platform for my ideal clientele. So I'm really trying to get my Instagram better. But, I also have a Twitter account, which I kind of use Twitter more for interactions with the business and centers of influences. But I find that my ideal clients are more on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
So are you seeing leads come from those three platforms?
Yeah, not Instagram so much as of now. I mean, I get opportunities from Instagram, people want to interview me for their podcast or something like that. But I would say a bulk still comes from either Facebook or I had people watch videos and hire me that way. But honestly, all of those platforms just feed into my website and it drives it just drives the natural SEO. So I've never paid for SEO. It's just all been organic because I put so much out there on the web. If I have presence and all these things, naturally, if you search financial planner in LA, I'm going to pop up all over Google search results because I put in the time to get out there.
So there's a couple of things that you just said I want to highlight. One is go to where your target market is hanging out. You don't go to LinkedIn just because somebody told you to go to LinkedIn. If your target market's not hanging out on LinkedIn, just ignore it. You don't have to have a presence on every single social media platform. If you specialize in working with highly paid executives, I guess, LinkedIn's probably the place to go. Don't go to Instagram. But if you're working with women in their 30s, Instagram and YouTube maybe, and maybe it's Facebook, or I think Google Plus is now officially defunct, but maybe it's Twitter. I mean, each one has their own strategy, but be sure you're hanging out wherever your target market is hanging out, because that's what really matters. The other thing that you said is that social media drives people to your website. And this is something that I'm not sure a lot of folks have caught on to yet, because I always get the question of how many tweets do I have to do in order to get a client? Or how many Facebook posts until I can expect to get a client? And it's not the way it works. It's more of putting yourself out there because it helps build up your SEO or your search engine optimization, so that when, basically Google ranks your website higher, puts it higher in search because it views you as more credible when you have a lot of content out there that's linking back to your website. So there's a lot of pieces that you can do there, but ultimately people are going to come to your website, and what are they going to find? So what is your strategy for people hit your website? How do you get them kind of into your funnel so that they're there and you can be kind of following up with them?
Yeah, I love that you're like, Alan, tell me, how many months will it take to get a Facebook site?
I get it all the time,
But how long? Oh my God. Okay, so basically on my website I have the immediate call to action, which is sign up to receive your free toolkit, and that requests their name and email address. So basically, above the fold, which means, they want to see it without scrolling down, you see that call to action, which is giving them something for free to get in your email list. So I have about 5,000 people on my email list. So that's really what I consider my lead community, my tribe, because these are people who've signed up, want something from me, and those are the people I drip market to. Every week I produce a video, email it to my list with a money tip, talk about, hey, if you want to talk about financial planning, feel free to schedule a discovery session with me, which is a free consultation.
So you've gotten 5,000 people to basically download that freemium and opt into your email newsletter list?
Yeah.
Holy
crap.
Lot? Yeah. Again, well, I don't know. A lot is all relative. The key is there are 5,000 people that raised their hand and said, yes, you can market to me. And this is where the inbound marketing comes in. Instead of going out and trying to find people, they come to your website, they see this, we call it a freemium, which did you work with Kristen Harrod?
Yes, I love her. Okay. Yeah, she helped me a lot.
So she's, the marketing coach for the XY Planning Network, so I'm a big fan of her series as well. She has kind of an online course called Lead You Love now, but basically it's this freemium concept that people come in, they give you their email address, and you give them something free in return that's really valuable. It's worth them giving the email. And it sounds like you have kind of this financial toolkit. I used to have checklists around, I would do some targeted ones, like the new parent financial checklist, all the things you need to do when you're having a baby. Maybe it's 10 tips for financial freedom. You can come up with what's your target market and what are they going to be attracted to downloading. But then now you have 5,000 people that you can be kind of, we call it drip marketing, or kind of just staying in front of. They get your email newsletter, you're top of mind, they're learning from you. And then one day when they decide to hire a financial planner, you're going to be the one that they think about.
Exactly. It's all about the drip marketing, because it's so true. Like Kristen always talks about the 7 touch point. You just don't know. You got to touch people 7 times, or they see it on Facebook or an email or a friend. And then whenever that time comes and they're ready to hire a financial planner, they're going to think of you first, because you've given them so many valuable tips along the way. I don't know, a year, 6 months, a week, and they're like, yes, I want to work with you. So it's great. It takes time to build, but honestly, this is the way of marketing in the future. So if you're not doing it, it's like you're kind of falling behind.
It is one of those things. It's really boring up front. I was hanging out with Carl Richards at our conference there in Charlotte, and he said it's one of those things like, how much money do you have at the end of a month if you double a penny every day? And I'm trying to remember the numbers, in the 16 million or something. It's a lot. But what he said was, but that first week is really boring, because you have 1 penny, the next day you have 2 pennies, and then you have 4 pennies. But all of a sudden we get really focused on the last day of the month when you go from whatever it is, 15 million to 30 million. But no one really wants to do what it takes to go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. And that boring initial strategy when you only have 10 people on your list is so critical, because there is no shortcut. You cannot go from day 1 to day 30 without going through every single day. So, it is one of those things that I would call it a long play marketing strategy, because the folks that are signing up for your freemium, they may take a year, 2 years, 3 years before they're ready to get signed up. But you're building this base. And as you roll out products, as you roll out new courses and do different things, you have a group of people to advertise to and to bring in to do that. So it's incredibly valuable. And like you said, it is the marketing way of the future. So. Right.
It is. Oh my God. We could talk about this all day.
We really could. I always get excited because I'm like, I have 10 topic ideas now that we could focus on.
I know. Okay, I want to come back then.
We will definitely have you back on.
That's my planting of the seed, okay.
Well, and so we were going to have you on in December, but do you mind if we talk a little bit about kind of what you said you're going to take the month off? So do you mind telling listeners a little bit about some of the decisions you've made on the personal side?
Yeah, so why not? It's all personal at this time. I am actually doing a month-long silent retreat, so it's something I've wanted to do. I've done meditation for almost 3 years now, and it's like just really changed my life, and it was around the time where I started my business, and it's just helped me like live authentically and know who I am and not get caught up in all like the stress. Because don't get me wrong, I love working, I love my business, but at the end of the day, it's just a business. Do you know what I mean? So this has really helped me understand the bigger picture of life and do more than just my business all day. So I had it in my financial goals to do this, and so I'm prepping for it. I'll be leaving and be gone for December, which is part of my plan too, because I always wanted to build a practice and business that was fitting to my lifestyle and allowed me to travel or take a month off or 2 months or eventually have a family, have kids. So I just thought, oh my God, I have to make this happen for myself now. And so I'm doing that. It's kind of scary and exciting, and planning for it's been really interesting because you realize also too, I'm in my next stages business growth where I have to have a lot of things in place so that it can operate without me. So that's it's been getting me to move in that direction more and more so that I can have the freedom that I always set out to have with having a business and not just the business control me and I'm working 24/7. Even though I love what I do, like I said, it's different to think of it as a business that can operate without me. So it's been great.
Yeah, and I appreciate you talking about that because I think it highlights a couple other barriers that you're breaking down, and that is one, the business can operate without us in it, and you can get it to that point if that's your goal. And taking that time for yourself is going to amplify your business into 2016 in ways that probably can't even imagine at this point.
Right.
And staying really focused on yourself. And I think the other highlight there too, and people ask me, I know what listeners say, oh, there's no way I could take a month off. The way you take a month off is you plan to take a month off and then you figure it out. And if you wait until your business is ready for you to take a month off, you never will, because you'll never design the business. People ask me, how do you ski so often? Or how do you do so much CrossFit? I put it on my calendar and then I let the business operate in a way that allows me to do that. I kind of force it on myself. So it sounds like that's kind of what you did.
Yeah, it's just like anything. It's if you want it enough, you make it happen. And it's also what I teach my clients. So they have goals, I have goals. We're all just trying to, fulfill our dream life here. And it's been really great to even get the support from my clients so far. I haven't, been able to tell everybody yet, but I'm in the process of telling everybody slowly, making sure things are set up. But it's wonderful to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I have this much of a personal relationship with my clients. And they're cool, we're good, go for it. And, it's all these fears in my mind that I have of oh my God, it's going to fail without me. They're not going to understand. My clients are going to hate me. They're not true when I actually just start doing it. And it's just life in general, to overcome the fears, not ignore them because they're real, but see the fear, address it, and move forward.
The key, however, I think, and what differentiates you from just kind of a planner off the street trying to do this, is that you have been putting your personality out there and attracting clients that understand who you are and are attracted to the same things that you are. I can imagine that if you had a bunch of older clients that were, strictly face-to-face and just wanted to talk investment returns and you told them that you were going to do this, they would be baffled by that. But
right.
You really use marketing as a way to attract in the right people. And I'm sure that you're repelling a ton of prospective clients because they're not into this kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's a good thing because you don't want to work with those people anyway. So Michael and I did an episode specifically on niche marketing back in episode 11, I believe, where we talk about this. And I think it's really key. I think you're a great example of why this works because it allows you to build your great life, to live the life that you want to live, build the business that's going to support it because you're working with the people that you really need to be working with and you want to be working with.
Exactly. Well said.
So as we're kind of running up on our time. So as we're closing out, ask you the question that I love asking guests. If you could go back and give yourself one tip, if there's one thing you wish you had known, maybe this is the Brittney that's working in Ameriprise and kind of evaluating options. If there's just one thing you could go back and tell yourself, what do you think that one thing would be?
Oh, just not worry so much. It's going to work out. And I would probably yell at myself for wearing those dang black suits all the time. What the heck was I thinking? And, I got, super mad at my family and friends one time because I was like, how did you let me, pretend to be somebody I'm not? And they're like, well, you got to do what you got to do. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I had to put in my time. So I put in my time. So I would definitely just tell my younger version, stop worrying so much. You're going to get there, wherever there is, and take off those black suits.
I love it. I threw away the rest of my suits recently. So my mom said she hopes no one in the family dies because I literally don't have clothes to show up to a funeral in. So you can ditch the suits. The suits will go away one day. And for ladies, whatever y'all's version of a suit is, you can do away with it.
I love your accent, y'all.
It comes through every now and then. Well, Brittney, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. This was a blast. Thank you. No, I've had a blast. So anytime you want to bring my craziness back on, please, by any means. We will definitely have you back on. And we'll have to bring in Michael next time because I do feel like I'm cheating a little bit on the fact that he's not He
here.
will be thrilled to hear that.
Michael, I love you. I love you so much. I love you guys both. Thanks for creating your platform and your podcast. I love it. I listen to it all the time now.
Well, thank you. What a story. For all the advisors out there that feel stuck in your current firm, I hope Brittney's story gives you hope that there's a way out. And, she also reaffirms what Michael and I have been saying all along, which is that a niche is incredibly important. I really don't think that there's a way that Brittney would have been so successful so quickly without such a clearly defined market that she was targeting. So just as a reminder, if you want to be able to ask our guests questions in the future or be able to give us ideas for future episodes, mailbag questions for Kitsis and myself, or just interact with other members of our podcast community, be sure to check out our VIP community. You can sign up at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP, or if you're not near a computer, you can text XYPN Radio, all caps, XYPN Radio to 33444, and you'll get access to the VIP community. This month's shows are brought to you by Betterment Institutional, a leading technology platform helping advisors scale their practice, improve their client experience, and save time. Betterment teamed up with industry veterans to build a next-generation interface for clients, automating workflows to allow advisors to spend more time with their clients. You can meet their practice management team dedicated to working with you to integrate a digital strategy into your business, providing best practices on technology adoption and integration. Check them out at bettermentinstitutional.com, and also be sure to listen to episode 16 at xyplanningnetwork.com/16 to hear an in-depth interview with Betterment Institutional partner Steve Lokshin. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.